Hey guys and girls, how are we? Apologies for the delay this evening. Just trying to fit enough into my day. So, as always, appreciate everyone for tuning in this evening and for having me as a part of your Tuesday night viewing. You could be watching, whatever it is on Netflix, whatever it is on free-to-air TV, or you could be sitting here watching Facebook, Instagram Live. So, do have you guys getting streamed from different devices, so sometimes there is a little bit of a lag. But getting straight into it this evening, guys, I want to put us on to
bank branches and ATMs will start disappearing across the country as the pandemic shifts Australians further towards a cashless economy. The use of cash has more than halved as many retailers switch to cards and phone payments, transforming the way we use money.
It's the unintended cost of avoiding close contact that big banks say they've achieved in 10 weeks, what had planned to take 5 years.
Things have changed so fast. Who would have believed there'd be merchants in Sydney that wouldn't accept cash?
A recent Reserve Bank of Australia consumer survey found a decade ago cash was used in 62% of all payments. By 2016 it dropped to 37%, falling to 27% last year. Since the pandemic hit, it's estimated to have plunged to less than 10% in many sectors.
It may have accelerated during this period, but the bottom line is that banking is considered by Australians as an essential service.
The big four banks have closed 170 branches during the lockdown. Some may not reopen. Australia's 28,000 ATM machines could drop to as few as 15,000, and cheques will be consigned to history. We're on track to become like Sweden, the world's leading cashless economy, where just 13% of transactions are done with cash. And the government has been forced to legislate to guarantee the access to cash for those who need to or prefer using it, particularly people in remote and rural areas and older Australians.
We're talking about hundreds of thousands.
Anyway, I think we all get the hint, guys, and thanks to the shout-outs. Jezza, have I got vodka in that water? No, it's just water. And over here on Facebook, hey everyone, we've got Michelle and Aileen from our Gold Coast office. For those of you that have properties in Queensland, you probably have the pleasure of dealing with Aileen and Michelle, so shout out to you guys. And Michael, good chatting to you earlier, mate. Thanks for checking in. Haven't had enough of me yet, so yeah, it was awesome having a chat with you this evening. Cool. Gonna get... I just saw a message here. How is someone doing? Whoa, this one go. How's certain so on? I actually don't like giving shout outs to people, so when people tag other like losers into by things, so I don't do a shout out to a specific person, but we've all got to question people's backgrounds and whatnot, and I don't know how he's going since he left working for me. So it's a good question, but just want to run through some news articles this evening, and obviously that one's the first one. That was an article from Twitter. It was actually a 7 News article from Michael Usher, I think it was, and he was talking about I just realised I forgot to plug the phone into the charger, so I might lose you guys on Instagram. So I'm going to try and plug the trusty charger in whilst we're going. But yeah, with it appears that we've got a lot of misinformation happening out there, a lot of interesting things that are occurring in the market. Here we go, we've got some charge happening, so we're all safe. I'm going to keep you guys on Instagram for a bit longer. But here we are hearing talks from the mainstream media now that 10 weeks it's been, and we've entered almost a cashless society. The cashless society that we're heading into, the totalitarian, fascist, communist world that we live in 2020. So very, very interesting, things that we've got to see coming across our news headlines. Is this real or is this a scamdemic? I've been calling it a scamdemic from day one. Leads me to my next article here, which is stage 2 of all of the bullshit coming through, right? So we've got a second wave of what? Second wave of lies, second wave of communism, second wave of your rights being taken away from you. Very, very interesting questions here. I just wanted to point out, I just saw a message here from a guy by the name of Bo. It says, "Hey Nathan, I'm Bo and I'm 13 years old and I'm watching you tonight." Mate, really awesome to see a 13-year-old getting into hustling so early. So that's really, really cool. That you're excited by investing, and you're educating yourself with real education at a young age, and not being brainwashed by all the opinions and stuff. So smash up the likes, and we'll get on with it. So just sort of give a shout out to you there, Bo. Thanks for tuning in. So here's something here from news.com, and it was an article saying Victoria imposes new restrictions after the virus spike. From Monday, Victorians were set to enjoy some of the benefits of eased coronavirus restrictions that many other Australians have been reveling in for weeks. Cafes, restaurants and pubs were set to increase capacity from 20 to 50 people, for instance, but that will not be happening. In fact, from midnight Sunday, Victorians will have some of that word that I can't say, restrictions reimposed, and they will be enforced by police. A state of emergency will remain in place for the next month. Right? What are we doing? Hey Bridget, I just realised it was your birthday the other day, and I shouted out "Happy Birthday" in Teams. That's Bridget there from Queensland, everyone. But looking at this news that's coming out, it looks like that there's a second wave, and lots of people have got questions coming through. What will happen? What will happen after the end of September? And it's a question I've seen asked here by Gergs. And I think it's going to be a big topic of today's discussion. And I've got an article here, which I was going to read anyway. And this is from The Guardian. It says, "The clock is ticking. What will happen when Australia's mortgage freeze ends?" It's a really interesting question that we've got. What will happen come September? Will they release the JobKeeper and be like, "Okay, everyone, it's finished, it's over, go back to work," right? These guys installed, the first wave of stimulus packages in March. They said we're going to have JobKeeper, it's going to last for 6 months, and we're going to have JobSeeker. We're going to have a whole range more. Like, if you guys think this is going to disappear, Jada, everyone here is from Queensland. Everyone's here from Blink Queensland, guys. If you guys have properties in Queensland, make sure that the team, that you reach out to the team, manage thousands of properties in the southeast Queensland corridor. You can see I've seen like 4 or 5 years on this evening already. So thanks for tuning in. And if I encourage anyone, if you do have a property, we strive to get the highest rents in the market out there. So feel free to reach out to my team, and very happy to help out. But with it, is the clock going to explode in September? I believe that we'll see a different problem occur in September. I don't have the charts on me at the moment, but for those of you that have been following me we've got Gail here from Queensland as well. Hey Gail, everyone here is from Queensland. With it, looking at what caused this scamdemic that we've got here. Is it the corona, everyone getting sick, or is it the fact that we had on the 12th of September 2019 the GFC, a GFD occur? GFD occurring, meaning the global financial depression, meaning that we saw the money supply change dramatically, where in the New York Fed started printing their own money and buying up their own bonds, banks becoming insolvent in September 2019, just before all this scamdemic sort of stuff occurred. Now we're talking about removing cash out of the system. For those of you that have been watching since the mentoring days back in 2018, where a lot of people thought they would have lost my mind, and I was talking about, this big financial collapse coming on. You'll remember that we read the 2018 budget in May 2018, where then Treasurer Scott Morrison had talked about doing a $10,000 cash ban. A lot of people said, what about interest rates going up? I said, interest rates will be coming down. The lizards in the RBA, the Reserve Bank of Australia, full of commies, they're the real rulers of the world. These guys were coming out saying we're never going to go with interest rate cuts. We're going to see interest rate increases, and telling you guys full lies throughout the mainstream media, whilst one here was telling you guys that we're going to see rate cuts and rate reductions, and the same thing has occurred time and time again. And we're at a point now where everyone's fearing out. These are some of the questions that are coming through about what will happen in September when the JobKeeper finishes and the mortgage, the mortgage freeze ends and whatnot. So let's go on to it. Christina Carson knows it's not a get out of jail free card, but with nearly 500,000 others, the Brisbane cafe owner needed help from a bank when the coronavirus pandemic devastated her business. Australia's banks have given 6 months grace to households of customers like Carson under their mortgage deferral scheme, which with the government's JobKeeper program has enabled households to keep afloat since the pandemic took a hold in March. When the opportunity came up to defer loan payments, it was really necessary for me to do that. Carson says, I've got a 14-month-old son, another on the way in August, and to make sure that we could keep a roof over our heads, and it's been a big help. But the question now is what happens when the scheme runs out in September, because it's clear that the economic slump induced by the crisis has some way to run. The Australian Treasurer Josh Frydenberg has already admitted the country is in a recession without even waiting for the official confirmation. The latest unemployment figures released this week show that the jobless rate is 7.1%, and most economists believe it will reach double figures in the coming months. In the fast-moving situation, and while Australia's efforts to stop the spread of the disease have boosted confidence, people are still believing that there's a disease. Look at this. There's lots of you. I've got Shane here from Queensland. I've got Lauren here from Sydney. All my team's online as well this evening. So we've got a team that love to learn as well and continue to grow. It's been a fast-moving situation. Australia's efforts to stop the spread of the disease have boosted confidence of banks. Know that many people will not be going back to their pre-corona income anytime soon. With that in mind, they've started talking to their customers and assess what they need to do for more help after September. For people like Carson, who has home business loans totaling more than $500,000 with NAB, it is not clear what will happen, although she expects some negotiations with her bank. The payment deferral finishes after 6 months, and then we have no idea what the future will hold, she says. She will reassess with them and see what they can offer. We know this scheme is not a get-out-of-jail-free card, and interest has to be paid. According to the NAB spokesperson, the bank is now speaking to its customers to check in to see how they're doing, to understand how we can help. Carson has the news agency Brisbane CBD and opened a cafe last month together. They employ 17 people. The both business depend on foot traffic, and while she says many offices have reopened in recent weeks, they cannot accommodate for all their workers because of the government's distancing rules. Even if they come back, there might be only 30% occupancy, so we're looking at a city of only 30% capacity. Now, I'm going to stop reading it here because I've read out a lot, and there's some really good points in this. So what we need to understand is that Josh Frydenberg has come out and he said that we have now entered a recession. Recession being 2 quarters of negative growth. We've got Brooke here from Queensland, everyone here from Queensland. So I think they're just jumping out now to say hi, so I keep interrupting and doing a shout out to them. So if you guys have properties that you need to be managed, or if you guys have got rental properties, please flick us an email. Me and my team would love to be able to help you grow your portfolio and assist you with getting the best rental incomes for your properties. So with it, let's look and break this down. So if Josh Frydenberg has called a recession early, right, 2 quarters of negative growth, right, we've just passed the mark of 1 quarter, right? It's only 3 months ago since all this occurred. So if it's 2 quarters of negative growth, that would mean that we would have been in a recession. We would have started that the quarter prior, which was September in last year, which marks perfectly on track with the fact of the repo market when it died, when the bond market died in September last year. So what would happen? Let's do a definition. Let's do a little Wikipedia search. What constitutes a depression? I have a lot of people asking me these questions about the property market, what's going to happen and whatnot. reality of it is that I would love to see nothing more than all the properties just collapse. I'd love to see the whole market implode. Will it be good for me, bad for me? Well, obviously, my properties would lose their value, but the opportunity would rise for me to be able to pick up more stuff on the cheap. So, yeah. With that, depression. So if we look at a GFD, which we called 2 years ago, which is basically played exactly as it is now, apart from that we're going to blame some protests which were sparked on for racial war, or that we're going to be blaming some people that were getting sick because they're eating animals that they shouldn't be eating in a market on the other side of the planet. I would have said you're a liar, and it would have been weird. However, we have got everything else on pat. So a recession is a downtrend in the economy that can affect production and employment, produce lower household income and spending. The effects of a depression are much more severe, characterized by widespread unemployment and major pauses in economic activity. Basically is what we're seeing at the moment, but I'm trying to find how many quarters is a depression. So how many negative quarters is a depression? The common rule of thumb for recessions is 2 quarters of negative GDP and growth. On the other hand, in a depression is a prolonged period of economic recession marked by significant decline in income and unemployment. Depressions are caused by the same factors that led to a recession. Basically, I remember seeing many times beforehand how many quarters of depression. 2 quarters of depression, on the other hand, is extreme full economic quarters that last for years rather than several quarters. So the difference I've seen here with Michael, hope you're doing, hope everything's well out of Western Sydney there, Michael. With it, the fact for a depression would be 4 quarters of negative growth, right? So this is where we've got to really step in and see the hands, right? If we're playing chess, right, we're not playing checkers, right? We're playing chess, and they've got to say checkmate at some point, right? And here we are, we've got 2 quarters of negative growth. We're officially in a recession. We're going to start doing tax returns very shortly, and that's going to show that all the companies out there are royally fucked. And I really apologise there for Bo that's 13 years old, hurting your innocent ears. However, we have got a fraudulent financial system at the moment. As we head into the following quarter, which will be around September, if they remove this, we're going to have 4 quarters of negative growth, guys. 4 quarters, we're going to be in a depression, right? Depression, is it good, is it bad? I'm excited, right? They're going to throw everything to stop the recession. They're going to do everything to stop a depression, right? And they're not going to stop giving you guys the mortgages on hold. They're not going to stop by giving you the JobKeeper, right? They have done all of this in order to stop a recession from potentially occurring, economic catastrophe. However, now we've got one, what are they going to be throwing around to get rid of that recession? And that's the exciting part of this, because the more currency that they print, the more money that's getting printed out there, the deeper it's going to get, the quicker that we're going to have a debasement of our currency. So very interesting. Like, what will we see? The question is, will we see? And it's interesting to see what you guys have to say so I've just got text messages and messages coming from every device here. There's other phone that I don't even use and it's still getting stuff. So what are your thoughts on seeing a recession? What are your thoughts of, seeing what happens after the mortgage freeze, right? We've already started to see that some of the banks are coming out and saying, look, guys, we know that you're going to be totally screwed. We're going to turn around and give you, seeing messages keep popping through. Thanks for watching, guys. They're going to need more stimulus packages. It's not going to stop at freezing your mortgage. We've seen the banks now saying, don't worry, we can make them interest-only repayments for the next 12 months, right? We can, there's lots of cool things that they're going to be throwing. If we have a look at one of my next articles, which is really important, this one here is an article here. I don't know who they are, some finance or some article here talking about the removal of stamp duty, right? There's the next one, right? So first and foremost, we've had job keeper, job seeker, job maker, put your mortgage on hold. There's changed bankruptcy laws, so you can't go bankrupt. It normally takes 21 days and $5,000 to send someone bankrupt. Now it's 6 months and $20,000 to send someone bankrupt, and it'll probably get higher. We've got to remove the parameters and manipulate the system more for us to be able to survive. That is where the opportunity is. Now imagine if we were to remove stamp duty. They are not going to remove stamp duty and just say, here you go, guys, get off free. They're going to make it a regular sort of tax, right? So instead of paying stamp duty up once, they're talking about making stamp duty as an annual payment, which would be like a land tax, which ultimately you're going to be paying more money for, but means the entry to property will be much better and easier. So if we look at the entry to property out there, let's assume you're going to be buying a property for $1 million. Let's say it's a $500,000 property, and how can that property go to $1 million, you may ask? Income's not going up, it's probably going less. Lots of things are negative, but how can that property still rise, right? Well, when you drop interest rates from 5% to 2.5%, it means that the mortgage will still be the same at 2.5% at $1 million, 25 grand a year, as it would be for 5% on $500,000, still 25,000 a year. When a deposit to get into a property, you could use a 20% deposit on $500,000 is $100,000. 20% on $1 million is $200,000. Plus, then you've got to put the stamp duty into it as well. So technically, if someone was buying a $1 million property, they were getting a free stamp duty or annual paid. It would mean that the stamp duty is much cheaper now, or non-existent. So, and if you're putting out a 5% deposit, it means that someone could get into a $1 million property for $50,000. They may make it much easier with a lower deposit to get into a property. But basically, this article goes on to say, when will stamp duty be abolished? Stamp duty was only supposed to be abolished in all states when the GST, similar to that, was introduced in 2000. These never got rid of it. No date has been set on when the stamp duty reform could come into effect in New South Wales. However, even before the scamdemic, many had argued that the stamp duty was an ineffective tax. Even the Prime Minister of Australia, Scott Morrison, said every economic analysis puts at the top of their worst taxes. For every $1 raised, it does about 80 cents of harm. Why do I need to pay stamp duty in New South Wales? Well, we need to extort, tax and rip money out of every single person. Stamp duty is one of the biggest revenue sources for state government, raising about $21 billion in 2017/18, according to HIA Stamp Duty Watch. How much is stamp duty in New South Wales? In New South Wales, you'll need to pay stamp duty when you're buying a residential home, vacant land, commercial, blah, blah. I just did one the other day, so here we go, over $1 million, $1,013,000, 41,000 plus $5.50 for every $1 over that price. I just picked up a property for 2.2 mil, and the stamp duty was $106,000, 106 fucking grand in stamp duty. Imagine if I didn't have to pay that, and I could just, pay extra 10 grand a year. So it's just a very, very interesting position that we're in at the moment. More stimulus packages coming in the mix. Looking at this other article here, this one is probably one of the worst articles that I have seen. It's from ABC, always be communist. ABC article, always be commies. They're always putting out some communist views. So this article goes on. It was posted 5 days ago. It says the Reserve Bank considered asking for a real estate transaction pause amid property crash fears. So one of the fears that they had at the start of this cycle was that it was going to crash, like a stock market crash, and they were going to try and put it on hold, right? What sort of controlled, manipulated, rigged markets are there that are out there that, with it, I'm seeing here, some of your comments, guys, are pretty funny. Who gets to control whether the market stays on or it gets turned off? So, Reserve Bank economists consider urging the federal government to shut down the real estate industry, pausing sales of established homes to avoid perceptions of a coronavirus-inspired housing market crash. The RBA documents obtained under the FOA warn of a sharp fall in housing prices. Documents from inside Australia's central bank, including many marked highly restricted, also suggest house prices could slump to at least 15%, allegedly. The internal reports contradict a much rosier public view for the Reserve Bank that Australia has now been displaying about the billions of dollars and millions of jobs tied up in housing construction and real estate. Minutes of the board's May 5 meeting released publicly noted that the demand for both new and established housing had fallen, and falling incomes, confidence, population growth were expected to affect the demand for new housing in an extended period. But inside the RBA, which sets key interest rates, economic direction, the warnings were clearer and more severe. It's become clear that there's been a big drop-off in demand for new housing, said the speaking notes for assisting government, blah, blah. So here we are with the calls for closing off a property market, right? Who would ever think that they would close off a property market? Who could control, who could orchestrate, who could pull off some sort of shit like that? Here we are, are we scared that we're going to see JobKeeper finish? I don't think it's going to finish, guys. Have you been to a shopping centre recently? I took my nephews out on the weekend, and I was looking at half the shopping centres are still closed. Right? I went to a shopping centre yesterday morning, and half the shops were still closed. There was a few oldies out with their masks on. And it's just a sad old sight. So what about if a business was only making like a 10% margin or a 20% margin? If they have a 20% drop off in sales, they're in a big problem, right? They're not making wages, they're not making bank, they're not paying their bills. This is a flow-on effect. So if anyone thinks that we're going to see the mortgage hold stop or anything change like that, got a big other thing coming. I actually just remembered of one of the predictions I made with Ridwan, my accountant, and I said to him quite a while back, maybe like 4 years ago, when this started to unravel and us starting to head into the depressionary stage, before anyone, in the recessionary phase, before anyone realised. And my suggestions at the time were that we could end up at a point where the RBA has to buy up the balance sheets of the banks and take all their default mortgages, all the defunct mortgages. So that could be another thing that we see in the future. So the RBA actually buying up the banks' balance sheets and bailing at the banks for all these defaulting loans. Are they going to be kicking people out of their houses? You can't even lose your house at the moment, guys. You can't even lose your house. And I'm sure someone will try and cut up my video and take that snippet and say what an idiot I look like, but that's fine. But that's the world we're living in. So if we think that suddenly in September, the lights are going to come on, the music's going to stop, and there's going to be no seats, we're probably correct, but they'll just put some more seats out there, milk crates for people to sit on, and musical chairs will continue on in a different fashion. So, very, very interesting, news stories out there, news articles, and it's something that, what is my view? It's a question that gets asked a lot. And my thoughts on the market is that we are in a vegetative state, right? The economy is an absolute vegetable state, and the economy is on life support in palliative care, but it's hooked up to a defibrillator and some dialysis machines or whatever those machines are, and it's just keeping us alive here as a vegetable. What will change? I just seen here a message here from David. Everyone's a share trader now. It reminds me of the Bitcoin peak when everyone was buying and advising each other to buy, and you got burnt. We are seeing that. I'm seeing so many people saying, stock market, fantastic, shares, awesome, put all my money in, right? Wait until those businesses, you realize that they are completely fucked, right? There's going to be a massive, massive awakening. There's going to be people with their hands blown off like they're kids playing with fireworks that shouldn't be and whatnot. We are in a very, very interesting time. Is the stock market somewhere to run to or avoid or go to? I'm not here to give you financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. I can be. My team can be. If you need help with that, you can reach out, send us a private message, send us an email at admin@binvested.com.au. We're happy to help you build a strategy to navigate through this time. Everybody's position is different. We're booked out for months in advance. Myself, my finance team, my financial planners. I've got a couple of financial planners on board, and everyone's booked out because people are trying to get themselves to safety. I feel like a doctor at the moment, right? I have appointments and meetings, and they're back to back, and everybody's like, "Help me out with my shares. Help me out with my super fund. Help me out with restructuring my finance." It's an interesting time, guys. Interesting time, and it's where is the light? Where is the savior? Like we've seen that they've just I was thinking about first homeowners recently, right? People are pulling out money out of their super. I don't encourage that. I see a message here from Luke. We'll get to that in a moment. But I see people saying, should I get my super fund out? Should I collect 10 grand, right? They're screwing people up. Don't touch your super until you speak to someone about it, because I know lots of people that wanted to take advantage of this market. They pulled $10,000 out of their super fund, and now the banks are declining the loans because they're saying they are of poor character. That is what the banks are coming back with poor character due to the fact that people have pulled money out of their super when they didn't need to, and it's just a very, very sad tale of events. Luke has mentioned here, Hertz is a good example of ignoring the fundamentals. Hertz is in bankruptcy at the moment. The stock went up from like $1 to $6 within a day, or 20 cents to $6. It's like gone up like 1,000% in a week. Don't hold me to the numbers that I said exactly there, but it's gone up from like 20 cents to over $6 within a week, and the company's bankrupt, right? It's a bankrupted company. These are zombie companies. Zombie. They are dead. They are fucked, right? They should be buried, but they're not. They're still alive. And people are thinking they're making so much money and they're so smart. What happens when the music stops, right? And is the property market any different? No, who knows, right? But I am betting on the fact that there is too much at stake here, right? We can avoid a recession, and they will do everything they can to avoid a recession. What they're going to be doing is by printing more money. They're going to be devaluing the currencies even greater. They're going to be printing off more money. They're going to be expanding the balance sheets and trying to get the liquidity out there however they can. Right? Think about this before 2020. Be careful of what you wish for, right? Because I'm sure that lots of people in 2019 were like, "Oh, I wish I had a money tree. I wish money would get printed. I wish they'd give me free money." And here we are in 2020. You've got your free money. You're getting free money. Money's going through that system, but are you collecting it? How are you benefiting from it? They're all the things to see. And there's a lot of people that are like, "I think I should go and pay off debt right now." And it's like, you're paying off debt when interest rates are 0%, and they're going to be stuck here for a long time. I'm just seeing here, Alex asked a question, will this be a W-shaped recovery, or will this be worse than that? W-shape would be, sort of down and up and down and up again, right? When we come out of this, make no mistake, right? The world may appear as it does now, but your value will be disappeared. Right, a Big Mac meal will be $20. Just remember, I was watching Birch in 2020, and he sounded like he was off his fucking head drinking sparkling or just still water. And here we are in 2025 or 2023, and a Big Mac meal is $20. Right, you're going to see $20 Big Mac meals. Right, you're going to see everything go up in value. The cost of goods for a business to survive in this period of time, they have to increase their costs. They have to increase their expenses. We're going to see not a W shape, as John has mentioned here. We're going to see an F shape. F shape because the market is fucked, right? It's a very, very interesting market that we're in at the moment, right? Where's it going to head to? Who knows, right? Are they going to cancel Z shape? Exactly, for zombies. Are we heading into a market which we're going to see all these things stop all overnight? No, right? They've shown their hand. The central banks around this country and around the world showed their hand in 2008, 2009, when the economy when the economy died in the middle of the GFC. They reduced interest rates. They haven't increased interest rates for 10 years. The last rate rise was 2010. The only reason we've seen rate rises, which occurred in 2018, was simply due to the fact that the funding was coming off their 10-year treasury bonds, which Australia had to borrow, and the currency was very different. The currency, the US dollar was weak in 2008, 2009. In 2018, 2019, it was increasing, and at that point we had to roll over some debts, and the cost of funding had increased, and the dollar had changed, and the cost of funding had to go up, and the banks did adjust their rates upwards as an off-cycle increase, but it was not from the central bank. Central banks have been reducing rates or keeping rates on hold for over a decade. If our economy was great any time in the last decade, guys, we would have seen a rate increase, right? And the only time the market, when you have confidence the market is good again, you will see a rate rise. But we're not going to see that. We're not going to see it, because if a rate rise occurs, everyone gets screwed, right? Just remember that one. In 2007, 2008, 2009, some bad actors got into trouble, some bad companies went bankrupt, some institutions went under, a lot of people got bailed out, they just printed straight over it. In this occasion, we're now seeing countries going under. We're seeing currencies die, right? I got my Hungarian Pengo the other day, right? Which were some notes. I bought them on eBay for like $3.50, right? $3.50, $3, whatever they were. They were worthless pieces of shit, and I'm going to make a video on them. I forgot to bring them today to show you, but one was a 50 Pengo, and that was like 1925, and one was a 1 milliard Pengo. 1 milliard, a milliard is 1,000 millions, i.e. 1 billion, so it's a $1 billion note. And that $1 billion note bought the same amount as the 50 Pengo note 20 years prior. And that was the largest sort of hyperinflation that we've ever seen. I'm getting asked, is there vodka in the water? No. I'd be completely screwed if I drank a whole bottle of vodka. I don't even drink nowadays. I just get parched when I'm talking so much and getting so excited with everyone here on live stream. So, yeah, with it, I'm going to take some of your questions and read some of your comments now. I think I've covered off all the things I wanted to talk about. I've got one other thing that I wanted to discuss, which I might get some of your questions, might look at some of your comments, and I've got a little bit of questions and answers for you a little bit later of a post that I made the other day. But just beforehand, next week I think it is, I'm just having a look here, I don't think I've got my diary on my phone. No, I don't have it here. But I think on the 1st, we've got a webinar, I think maybe next Wednesday. Have a webinar. The link is in the description here in Facebook. If you guys are on Instagram, just send us a DM. We'll send you the details of how to register for the webinar. I have a webinar with a lady by the name of Rose. Rose is my personal mortgage broker. She's been my broker for over the last 15 years, almost 20 years now. I'll be holding a webinar with Rose, talking about finance strategy, talking about debt planning, talking about strategies, talking about things to look out for, answering questions for you in a much less sort of jovial and out there sort of conversations like I have on my lives, but it's going to be very important. If you're thinking of getting debt, must tune in. If you have debt, you need to tune in. It's very, very important. So the link is on the Facebook Live. Please join up, register. I think that the webinar can only allow a certain amount of people. I don't know how many that is, but once the registration of that goes, not everyone can get in. So I think it's capped at about 500. But go and register. We'll be covering, I see a message here from Michael, keep fixed loans or keep them variable. We will be covering fixed versus variable loans. We'll be covering all different areas of finance and finance strategy, how to build large property portfolios. A lot of people ask me, Nathan, how do you, build double-digit property portfolios in 2020. I made a post the other day. I acknowledged that I had another client that got into a double-digit property portfolio this year. I've had this year in 2020 was the largest amount of portfolios go from 0 to 4+ properties this year. So imagine having 0 properties getting 4 properties, having 1 property getting to like 5 or 6 properties this year. But I had my most amount of people crossing that border from 9 to 10 in 2020 than any other year. It doesn't come by chance. It doesn't come just miraculously. It comes with strategy, it comes with a plan, it comes with commitment, determination, and finance is a big key to it, because you can have as many great deals as you want, but without having the finance, you can't deal. So make sure you tune in, join, register for the webinar. The spots are limited to, I think it's 500, because that's all that the webinar will hold, and quite a lot of the time it will fill out very quickly. So look forward to seeing you guys on that. Getting to my last topic before I go to your questions and answers. Last night I made a post on yesterday my team made a post on Instagram. Just going to go and have a look at the post and read it to you. It was based on the Facebook page and the Instagram. It goes to read, if you're 25 to 30 years old, which a lot of you guys are, guys and girls are 20, 25, 30, 23, 18. We saw Bo earlier that tuned in. He was 13 years old. I feel bad for swearing, but it's important to understand and get educated early that the system is not going to, getting a job isn't something everyone should aspire to, even though the school tells us to. But it goes here to say, if you're 25 to 30 and your main circle isn't frequently discussing stocks, real estate, opening businesses, committed relationships, fitness, and instead discussing getting high, drunk, one-night stands, and good old days like that, those sound pretty good. But put it all into context. Are you getting ahead in life? Are you achieving? Are you stuck in the past? Are you got the wrong people? It's important to have the right people around you. I can say that in life I've had people from all different walks of life in my life, right? Some that are on one end of the spectrum, some are on the other end of the spectrum, and they all bring different things, and it's cool. But are you taking actions to be in line with the person that you wish to be? The people that are around you, helping you get ahead, or are they trying to hold you back? There's a rapper, his name's Nipsey Hussle. He got shot dead for exposing the truth. Nipsey Hussle said something to the effect, don't quote me the exact words, that if your circle is not inspiring you, you are not in a circle, you're in a cage. And it's really, really important to look around you, make sure you've got the right sort of people that are there to prop you up and to put you in line with where you want to be and all that sort of stuff. So, and it's good. Like I try and take out my nephews and nieces. I've got over a dozen. I've got like 17 or 18 and some on the way and whatnot. I've got a big family, and I try and teach them and educate these kids about how to have a better life, and little things that they go to school and they come back with these certain things. The other day I went and bought a nephew of mine, Rich, had poor dad. I saw his sister in the chat beforehand in Facebook Live, and I bought him a book, and I said to him that if he wants to buy money to buy a phone call, I'm glad that it's okay to swear for you. I said to him, if you want some money, to buy some games online or something. And I said to him, look, if you want money, what are you going to do? And he's like, I want to do some work, I'll get some money and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, look, I'll pay you $50 for every book. I'll go buy you a book. I'm going to buy you the book. I want you to write an article about it. I want you to write a report on everything you learned in that book, and come back to me and tell me what you think of it and how you learned and some of the points that you learned, and tell me about the system we live in. And I asked him some questions, right? Kids are inquisitive, and it's important to look at future generations and being able to see their thought process, because kids absorb a lot. They go to school, they go to the 12-year indoctrination camp like we all have, to become a tax slave without questioning the system that we're in. And being able to help out, doesn't matter what area in life, if they're 5 years old, 10 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, there's things to move forward. And with my nephews, I'm like, I'll give you $50 every time you read a book and you write me a report. Like, it could be a 5-page document. When you come and hang out with me, I'll take you for drives, I'll go show you some properties, I'll go take you out in cool cars, whatever the case may be. But you need to bring a notepad with you. Bring a notepad and a pen, so you can be able to write, take notes, observe. And I played a video. I was going for a drive to the Central Coast to go and show my nephew, so I just thought I'd take him for a drive, and showing him a property that I just purchased. And as I was there, I was listening to this article that someone from the community sent through as a YouTube video, and I shared it in the Birch feed, and I asked him about what he thinks about money, because he always says, I want money, I want money, I want money. I'm like, money's a scam, mate, it's a scam. And when he was listening to the video, I was like, what do you think about it? Like, how does this sound? Does this sound right? And he goes, it sounds sketchy. So apparently, I felt old when he goes, it sounds sketchy, right? This little 12-year-old nephew of mine called it sketchy. That's what he thought of the system. I asked him, how could you be a millionaire? And he goes, oh, millionaire, yeah, I'd love to be a millionaire. How can I be a millionaire? I want to be a billionaire like you. I'm like, I'm not a billionaire, right? I just hustle. And I asked him, I said, if you go and this is no disrespect for anybody, we all work and all that sort of stuff. I spoke to him and I said, look, I want to have it as a goal where you guys don't have to work. You can go and invest and, hustle and, set yourself up so you're not trapped in the cycle. And I said, if you want to be a millionaire, an average wage of $50,000 per year, you'd have to work for 20 years, not eat, not pay tax, not pay any your living expenses, and then you could be a millionaire. Right? It's very far-fetched. It doesn't happen just like that, right? You need different vehicles, different assets, and a different type of mindset. So, it doesn't matter. A lot of people come in and say, how can I, get my kids started to invest? How can I, teach my friends how to invest, right? There's no, you can't force it upon people, but if you can, sort of set the right example and be able to lead those people, there's lots of, it's very humbling. And seeing my nieces and nephews, I think it's very fitting that being able to make sure they get on the right track and not get brainwashed too much, not get stuck in that 12-year indoctrination camp, not wanting, like, people are literally out there going, what am I going to get from the government? What am I going to get as a stimulus package? Right, I'm excited by the stimulus package, don't get me wrong, but the whole system's set up wrong, guys. The whole system's set up wrong. So, yeah, that was just my views on that. Some people said they're going to unsubscribe from the B.Invested pages because they didn't like the question, which was, is your... just going to open it back up again. If you're in those age gaps and this is what you're talking about, people said we're going to unsubscribe. And, first thing when I see people unsubscribe, I don't go on and comment on the social media channels. But it was like, I was thinking to myself, like, wow, like, you don't even have an open mind. Imagine your friends, imagine your circles, like, you need to question these things in life. And it's not about money or anything like that. It's about, what you're fulfilling in your life, what you're allowing in your life. So, it's just observations. And yeah, as I said, my nephews, I'm trying to make them watch YouTube videos. I give them money for writing reports on videos. Trying to educate them on how to invest themselves, and a contrarian view to what their teachers and schooling is telling them to do. So, just 2 cents on that. Going to read some question here from Facebook. Shane goes, keep those leads coming to Blink Queensland. So thanks for awesome job, Shane. For you guys that have got property, buying property, make sure that you can either have a real estate agent look after your properties, or you can have Birch's team at Blink being able to manage your properties, collect the rents, and do all the things that a real estate agent would do, but obviously doing a much better job. John says here, tickle your super while you can. Be very careful. Everybody's position is different. I'm not a big fan of super. However, I'm not a big fan of telling people to go and pull their money out. Everybody's position is different. Important to speak to a financial advisor before you do that to make sure that you're not screwing yourself up. Kevin asked, negative interest rates. I believe negative interest rates are locked in. I posted a video from Data Dash earlier on today. Data Dash is a trader. He's a guy on YouTube. I posted one of his videos where he's talking about interest rates, negative interest rates. All the central banks around the world are totally screwed, and they are going to be forced to go negative interest rates. So, yeah. Orban 2144. I don't know what that's referring to, but I know that there's a funny Snapchat or some funny video page. Recession, who cares? That's basically what it is. Recession, everything goes up. It defies the odds, right? Defies the odds. I'm a kind of buy at the top and sell at the bottom kind of guy. Eat kebabs, not bats. This is funny, guys. Funny. John, buy gold. See a lot of people buying gold. A lot of people, talking about let's buy silver. It's going to go up. It's going to be the highest thing ever. It should be valued at 20 grand, etc. I don't disagree that these things should be worth a lot more. However, if they were worth a lot more, the whole system would lose its position. And I see that they're very heavily controlled by the COMEX, via ETFs, and via other paper contracts, which are keeping the price down. Will it go all the way up? I really doubt it. However, I do believe in hedging your position, and gold and silver and other precious metals are something that I'm very positive on as well. Chris, you like my saying there? That's cool. Alien, pick up a bargain. Lots of bargains out there. There's much less bargains than what I thought. The market is booming, right? I read out the negative articles beforehand. Read out about all the doom and gloom out there. The markets are hot, right? You can't pull this much stimulus in the market and expect it to put out the fire, right? It's like pouring petrol. Everyone's picked up these bottles and they think they're pouring water. Let's stop this from dying. It's going to straight up, and you just wait. Just like a tsunami. I said to you guys probably about 3 months ago when this started to occur. It's like the Fukushima power plant. Everyone saw the water go out. They're like, oh wow! Well, they actually thought an earthquake. Earthquake goes, oh, what's going on? And then all the water goes all the way out. And everyone's like, oh wow, the water's gone out. And then next minute, the water comes smashing through, right? And then it takes out the nuclear power plant. And then it settles. And then everyone's getting nuclear radiation. And then as a ramification of that, you have a financial catastrophe and all these other problems that are occurring. Fast forward 2020 globally, and here we are. We're at a phase where just the water's going out at the moment. We haven't seen it come back to shore. We haven't seen, is the water going to disappear? Possibly. Could possibly evaporate, right? But it's not, we haven't seen it come back to shore yet. And that's where everyone needs to be, very cautious of. Talking about second waves, right? It is the second wave of bullshit coming out, and I'm excited to see the headlines because I can see the news articles before they occur. Somehow they're talking about this data security, which all things point back to China, right? If we always look back to China, is it that we're racist by these people? Are we, why are they putting hate against people? Where are we at, right? Reality is that China started trading oil with yuan in I think it was the 26th of March 2018 when oil yuan started to trade. The previous 2 times this had occurred, Gaddafi and Saddam got killed within 6 months, right? This is a war game. This is a game where we're just pawns on the chessboard. People don't know they're just moving along on the chessboard. You need to sit back and look at the game that's being had here. A lot of these articles are pointing back to creating war, instilling hate. China's doing this, China's doing that. I don't want to get into politics, but do understand that the currencies are being heavily manipulated. And this is a game where the currencies will die. They will die. I'm 100% confident. Put my reputation on the line many years ago about coming out with this stuff, and I'm very excited, and I will continue to do what's right. So no one will stop me on that front. Nathan said here, maybe no income tax. There is a possibility we could scrap income tax. It is a real possibility out there. Scamo, whatever it takes, it is. Michael, you and mother called it 1 month apart in 2018. I'll give you a like for that one, mate, because, yeah. We've got here, Graham, is 2% growth and 10% inflation a depression recession state by definition? It all goes down to, the interpretation of the country and how the financial geniuses that control our world, want to interpret it. I've always been of the belief that it's been 2 negative quarters of growth is a recession and 4 is a depression. I just realised Instagram's going to end shortly, and I'll read these questions before I lose them all. So any questions here in Instagram, I'm going to get over to you guys. No, it's not vodka in the water. With so many buyers agents, how do I pick between them? Good question. Going back 10 years ago, there was no such thing as a buyer's agent. I started B.Invested, like the 3rd sort of buyer's agency out there in the country. And, people are like, what do you mean I'm going to pay you to buy a property? And, sort of take pride in the fact that sort of led and built an industry and were one of the founding people of the industry. And now there's people out there doing courses on how to be a buyer's agent. And, it always makes me laugh when I see all these people coming out with the new buyer's agency. And it's like, well, what are you buying? Are you paying someone to buy your property, right? People ask me, why should I use B.Invested as a buyer's agent? You can use realestate.com. You don't even need to pay anything for that, right? But I guess ultimately, from B.Invested side, I'm not a financial advisor, but you're paying to, build a property portfolio and be able to have that delivered to you. The results, I put out a post last week for $8.95. $8.95 per square metre for a block of land. Carpet sells for like $40 a square metre. I'm buying land in Australia, right, close to capital cities, right, for $8.95 per square metre. Right? Tell me what buyer's agent out there is doing that. Tell me, what the finance strategy or debt strategy behind that firm is to help someone get to 6 properties in their first year, or to get people to 10 plus properties in their portfolio in 2020. It's not that you're buying that you're paying a buyer's agent out there. I'm assuming, I don't know how buyer's agents work out there. I just know how my firm works, and I know that the results. I look at what I've built with B.Invested is that I've built a family office style setup where I help people build wealth in a family office style manner. I locate the deals, I negotiate the deals, I build their wealth in their portfolio, I give them the strategy to build their portfolio, and I have the team around to be able to support them, be able to build that portfolio out. I don't see other people out there with the same sort of results in their portfolios. Tell me who has built a portfolio of sort of 10 plus properties in 2020. I'd love to talk to them because I know they're not doing it, because they're not capable of being able to do that. So that comes down to part of what they should be doing. But ultimately, when I purchase properties, I'm buying them below market value, upside for capital growth and strong cash flow. I always think that the fees that we charge for buyers agency fees, we're paying you sort of dividends on that because we're buying it so far below market value. Seeing lots of thumbs up here. Do you think there'll be stimulus for people who already want a home and want another one? I doubt it. That's called Home Builder Grant, which is possible. Depends how you structure yourself. Jezza, buy me a unit in Queensland so I can watch from there as well. Look, we can get your property in Queensland, mate. We can get your property in Queensland. Let's have a chat more about that and help you reach your goals on that front. I'm picking up stuff in the heart of the Gold Coast, Brisbane, for like 100 grand, 150 grand, 180 grand. There's mad, awesome opportunities out there still. Do you think the reserve currency will have a reset and be backed by gold again and have a revaluation of the assets? No, they're not going to let their game go. If we have an inflation, will interest rates inflate too, and how many years? Interest rates will only go up after the currency is dead. interest rates could go to 60%, but when someone's on a $2 million a year income where they used to be on 50, who cares about the interest rates at that point? So there will be a point to pay down your debt. It's important to have a debt strategy. Make sure that you guys on Instagram tune in and register for the webinar. If not, just send a private message, and we will send you the link to get involved into the thing. So I'm going to share that, start a new one, live, go live. Back over to Facebook, guys. When will silver reach $500 per ounce? Is it possible? I hear the Fed is thinking of yield curve control. The Fed is already controlling the yield curve. Every central bank around the world is controlling the yield curve at the moment. If we look at the 30-day interbank cash rate futures here in Australia, that's exactly what's happening, right? We've got a flat curve there. If we look at the 3-month bond, the 12-month bond, the 3-year bond, the 5-year bond, 10-year bond, 30-year bond, they are all controlled, and they went from being inverted back to a positive yield curve. So will silver hit $500 per ounce? Is it possible? I don't see it happening in the future anytime soon, but I do, I wouldn't say fantasize, it sounds a bit too sexual, but I do, prognosticate and think, what would happen if silver did hit $500 an ounce? It would be a very interesting world that we would live in. And I'd love to see that day. I personally have invested a lot into physical silver and gold and other sort of assets such as like cryptocurrency and all the hardware that's around it and whatnot. And I could see that happening one day, but I wouldn't bank on it, because if it was to go to $500 an ounce, the whole system would completely collapse. So is a possibility. I believe we will see it in our lifetimes, but are we going to see it at the moment? I wouldn't like to speculate on that front. You've got a lot of people out there, as much as I love the guys like Mike Maloney and Peter Schiff, they're out there talking about, gold will hit 20,000 an ounce, 30,000 an ounce. I prefer not even to think about dollars, right? Dollars are only, piece of the chessboard. I think more about, how many ounces of silver can buy X good, how many ounces of gold can purchase, some stocks, how many ounces of gold will it take to buy a property, how many Bitcoin can I use to pay out a mortgage. Imagine if I had, so hypothetically, 200 Bitcoin and I paid out 200 mortgages. I don't have 200 mortgages because I've got a lot less than that. But let's assume that you use cryptocurrency when they get hyperinflated as a ballast to pay out debt. And it's a very interesting conversation one could have with themselves. Obviously, no financial advice as always, and not telling you guys to go out and make any decisions on that front. But I always ask myself these questions, and it's important to prognosticate and to sort of look into the future of what could potentially happen in certain circumstances. So yeah, I don't see it happening anytime soon is my short answer. Michael, in the USA, depending on which institution you're with, you can put your mortgage on hold for 12 months. It is possible. See, we've got the US here with 12 months of mortgage hold. To this day, I haven't put my mortgages on hold, not even one of them. So I think about it. I'm also thinking, imagine if they made a different interest rate, right? And made a cheaper interest rate for those that pay their mortgages on time, and then a more expensive interest rate for those that don't. Right? That could build a two-tiered system here. So I always like to sit back and I don't take action. I don't jump out and go, shit, I've got to put it on hold, or I've got the opportunity to, because a lot of people have put their mortgages on hold and now can't get access to funding for a period of 6 months. Some people are locked out until 2021, right? And there's an opportunity out there at the moment, but by making the wrong moves and not speaking to your team and not getting set up correctly, then you could screw yourself right up. But there's a lot of people out there now with the ability, they've put their mortgage on hold for 6 months. Now they can go back and turn their loan from principal interest only for another 12 months. They're going to throw everything at keeping this system alive and keeping people protected, because people are the bank's assets, and the country's assets as well. Andrew, every country on earth locked down. Do you think the financial reset is covertly delivered, executed while the whole world is on hold? I don't believe so. I believe that there's levers that are being pulled that we haven't fully seen taken into effect yet. There's certain things that will occur over the course of the next few years. Will we see a reset where everything gets revalued and whatnot? I don't know, right? It's going to be an exciting time. A very, very exciting time. But I just saw, and I posted into Birch feed just before this Facebook Live, a propaganda outlet from the CIA, right? And if you type into Google, 13 bloodlines, just type in 13 bloodlines, the first thing comes up is a CIA link with talking about ruling families and ruling classes. It's there in plain sight. But now we've got propaganda outlets asking the CIA, saying, come and work for us in your nation, right? Isn't the CIA just like the US? Why is every nation needing it, right? It's important to look at, is things changing in the back end, right? Are we having some sort of hostile takeover, right? We've got all this talk about China this, China that, China the next thing. Is China, playing their move and saying checkmate with the currency? Where are they joining, trade agreements? We've seen in the course of the last week, Australia take out a trade agreement with the UK, thinking that we're in, the early 1900s and the start of the 20th century again. Right? We are in an Asia-Pacific region, right? Like, why did we start seeing Chinese police cars popping up? Why did we see a visit from a Chinese warship in Sydney in 2019, just before this occurred? Why are we seeing negativity around China, trying to, negatively smear them? Who knows, right? But is there games that are being played at the back end that don't add up and could pop up? Very much so. And will we see a reset? I believe that we will see a reset. People ask me, will we see it go to Bitcoin and then back it by gold? Right? That's a fantasy, guys. It's a fantasy. They're not going to use Bitcoin. They're not going to use Ethereum. Will those things go up a lot? I believe they have a lot to benefit due to the fact of the more currency that's being printed, it's going to find a home. It's just going to deal with inflation. And the quicker, the currencies die, the more that those assets and financial instruments will go up. So very, exciting times. So I should get paid kid keeper. It's funny. AGB legend. Everyone's a share trader now. Exactly, they mentioned that one beforehand. Everyone's an expert in shares. It's Shane, the economy is in a coma at the moment. It's on life support in palliative care. Melissa, booked in tomorrow. Awesome. I think you mentioned there about the financial advisor to look at your super. That's cool if you do. If anyone has a super fund, everybody has a super fund. Make sure you're doing what you can to protect it. Reach out to my team. My financial planners are really booked out months in advance. With it, reach out to my team, speak to them, see if you can protect yourself before, August, before July, August, September. It's a very, very interesting time. I think it's kind of true. The people that already own lots of Bitcoin pushed it hard and made a killing with it. Correct. Something occurred, and it was the CBOE had created a paper contract, the futures contract, when Bitcoin hit its all-time high, and those markets could be manipulated using stable coins such as US dollar tether and all different things. So it's interesting. Yeah. Hey Nathan, how many properties did you buy in Cairns before you branched out? I bought properties in Cairns years ago. Like my cheapest one up there was like $20,000. So I bought it when the market got destroyed. It wasn't my first area. My first area was out in Western Sydney. I buy properties all around Australia. I'm buying them in really random places at the moment, strategically as well. Sparkles, what is your view on the rental markets in New South Wales and Queensland? I have tenants leaving as they can get better rents close by or even in the same complex, finding it harder to rent the same properties even in Western Sydney without large rent reductions. There's different ways, like ratchet clauses are one thing. So you start the rent at a little bit of a cheaper rent today. Everyone's like, wow, I've got the cheaper rent. But in the second half of the lease, it goes up a lot and gets back to standard rent. If you would like some help on that, reach out to send us a message on here. Send my team an email at admin@binvested.com.au. We saw here beforehand like 5, 6, 7. I think it was like 7 or 8 of my staff from my property management firm on here beforehand. Watching and being a part of the community. They're just from my Queensland office, my Gold Coast office. So feel free to reach out. I manage properties sort of nationally, so happy to help out where I can, help you get the highest rental returns and whatnot. So overall, from a whole business perspective, probably noticed about a 5% difference in rental sort of arrears over this whole period of time. And we minimise that. There's always some format of rental arrears, and we want to keep it in low day rental arrears, so being sort of like a couple of days behind or something like that, not 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks. And I'm hearing that from a lot of real estate agents. They can't control that. Actually have staff in property management that come from different walks of life, and some have been in debt management, and that's debt collection, right? Nice word of debt management. Oh, that sounds pretty cool. To try and help nurture. They're not obviously bringing baseball bats around, but they can if they want. But they're managing the tenants to encourage them to pay their debts and whatnot. But it's only been very, very minimal. So we're very fortunate from that point. The F-shaped thing, spitting the truth. USA in trouble. Modern presidents are Jesuits of the Jesuit train. The Jesuits behind the scenes, they're active. They control many corporations and institutions. If you have a look at the ruling class, they're not elected. They've been selected and put into place. If we look at Trump, I met the guy. Trump, when I met him, seemed like a gentleman. I don't know him, but I've met him and had the privilege of doing so. He seemed like a nice guy to what all the media has to say. But this guy's been trying to be a president for many, many years. He's been groomed by the Rothschilds as being a good asset to the firm. And the day that his daughter got married to a certain person, and he, you see the son-in-law, he's always signing documents and stuff. You never see him. You never heard him in a press conference, never heard him speaking, but his family are very, very powerful and control the White House at the moment. So, Trump's just a salesperson that's there to sell the winnings. He's a cheerleader for it. The people that are in the US, referring to it specifically, just because it's been brought up, the people in the US, all those politicians, right? It's like, oh, this president can have an 8-year term. We're going to vote him in or whatever. Most of those sort of politicians have been in place for 40 years, right? They've seen like 5, 6, 7 presidents go through. Some have been murdered and whatnot. It's just who are you putting on the stage? Are people like, yeah, go Trump? It's like Trump's just a salesperson. Nothing bad against, nothing good for him. He's just a salesperson. It's the whole team that's behind it. So who's making these calls? Who's got vested interest in these things? Interesting to observe. Alex, variable rates are the go for a long time to come. I have all mine are on variable at the moment. I haven't fixed them yet. I will fix them. Now is not the day that I'm going to be fixing them. It's an exciting time. I will be talking a lot more about that in next week's webinar. So the webinar will be on Wednesday night. You will still see me on Tuesday night, but I'll be holding a webinar with a very, very special person. As I said beforehand, make sure that you sign up for that webinar. It is free. It's for everybody. If you don't see the link and you're not on Facebook, if you're on Facebook, click the link. If you're not on Facebook, send a private message and my team will send you access to that. So, Michael, pretty funny there. We both know what you're saying there. Fixed loans will keep a variable. That's what we just spoke about. John, touch it back at super. My thoughts is withdraw the 10K, sit in an offset account so you have access needed. You might not have access to it later. John, there is very many pros and very many cons to getting access to the super. I would not like to speculate or give anyone advice on that matter on this broadcast. However, I have a team of people that specialise in this stuff, and it's very important. If you have a super fund, which everybody here should have a super fund, maybe not Bo because he's 13 years old, but everyone that does have a super fund should be looking at protecting their money. I often ask people when I'm speaking to them on the phone and in conferences, how much do you have in your super? People go, oh, I've got 50 grand, I've got 100 grand, I've got 200 grand, whatever, right? Doesn't matter if you've got 50 grand, 20 grand, 100 grand, 200 grand, 400 grand, 500 grand, right? That's your money, right? Who is managing your money, right? Always think about it, like if someone's got 200 grand in super, or a couple, they might have 100 grand each, or 50 grand, 100 grand, whatever, right? That's hundreds of thousands of dollars. You don't know where the fuck it is, right? You don't know where that money is stored. You don't know who's managing your money. You don't know what they're investing it in. You don't know how safe it is, right? You've just been told to, oh, we've got a little ad on TV, right? Oh, it's with that company. They must be good, right? Where is this money, right? You could be using that money in different ways. So if you have a super fund, reach out. My team will help you, give you some guidance. Maybe they can help you, maybe they can't. Maybe you've got really good potential. Maybe you're screwed and you don't have a good position at this point in time. Feel free to reach out. They're there to help. Cameron, will you be covering extracting equity in an offset account? Be prepared for when the opportunity arises. I'll be covering everything to do with finance and structuring and leaving it for an open forum. So it'll probably go on for about 2 hours like we go on here. An hour of discussion with the OG of finance. So Rose has been a part of my portfolio, done about 80% of my personal loans over the last 15 years. So she knows a thing or two about structuring debt. So we'll be covering all different aspects. Now, if we don't cover it, then I encourage for everyone to ask questions as well. David, I've got this friend who won't give me a fucking ratchet back. What would you do if it was me? I've got no idea. I'd go and get my ratchet back. But if you can't get it back, either lose your friend, don't worry about it, it's only a ratchet, or you can take the boys and forcefully get your ratchet back. There's multiple ways. Always think it's important to start as a gentleman first and try and stay up there as much as you can. If not, sometimes you've got to go down to the other areas. So, yeah. Oh, wow. There's some funny posts in here. You guys are funny tonight, guys. Justin, I cannot renew interest only. I've exhausted all avenues. Not eligible for 6 months holiday until a tenant stops paying rent, as each property ends interest only. My only option is to lock in each property as principal and interest, as they roll off interest only for low interest rates, lock for cheaper rates. Justin, there's always an option. I think we spoke about this a little while ago. Might pay to give the guys at Zinger a buzz and see if there's anything that's changing at the moment. I'd be interested to see, if they were principal interest, how you could revert them back to interest only, even if you can't service the debt and they have to. The way that they're looking at loans is very different. They have to keep those loans alive. If the banks are starting to report, just think about this, right? Imagine if the banks start reporting massive losses and, the banks start crumbling, right? The RBA will have to come in, take up their balance sheet, buy those loans, repackage those loans, and it's going to be a really, really fun game. So they're going to do everything they can to prevent that from happening, which they're doing a great job at the moment. Tell me the last time you saw a mortgagee in repossession. Tell me the last time you saw something, the people that are being distressed, right? Distressed sellers aren't out there. I wish I found distressed sellers, right? Are they all just going to flood in now? They've done everything they can to stop this market from collapsing. They're not just going to throw it under the bus now at the end of this year. So, just keep an eye out there, guys. Daniel with super, I'm looking to be working on myself, and I don't plan on paying myself super as it's 10% more cash in my pocket now rather than later. Am I better off setting myself up now rather than wait until I'm about to die to get super out? Look, guys, my father was 62, had a heart attack, died. He was still working his job. I always think to myself, who knows when we're going to live? Who knows when we're going to die? So for me, that's my view on it. Other people's are different. People are like, no, my super, right? It's my future. It's all of God. And it's like, there's nothing wrong. Pros and cons, views. Everybody's position is different. Shouldn't be treated as one size fits all. But I do think that you need to have a financial strategy around that. How are you going to look after yourself in the future? How are you going to look after yourself now? How are you going to set yourself up financially? So that's where we can help you on that front if you need help with that. What shares and resources do you hold? I don't have any shares at this point in time. It's not saying I don't like shares, but I don't have any shares at this point in time. Gold and silver are basically a hedge, not necessarily for profit. It is for purchasing power, and the price does not matter. It is how many ounces you have. Very good point, Adam. I'm seeing people that run out there and they're like, I'm going to buy all gold and silver, and I'm going to, pull out money from my equity and go buy an asset, buy some precious metals, which does not bring in cash flow. You've got to look at the opportunity cost of your currency as well. So, it's the big picture. Erkan, fuck, this period in time is so stressful to invest or not to invest. That's the question, sitting here with 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Reach out to us, have a chat with me, have a chat with my team, help out where I can. There's no right, no wrong. This year, I've been very aggressive out there in the marketplace. I've been waiting for this time for the last 10 years, and it's a very exciting time. Like it's something that, some areas I'm not investing into. There'll be a point when all the prices start rising where I'll be like, this is fucking stupid. I'm not going to be participating. I did come out a couple of years ago and say that we're in a very inflated market, and that, I'm not buying property at the moment. And, here we are today. Markets are very suppressed. There is a lot of people piling into the property market. If we look at Sydney, tell me, I'd be encouraged. I'm actually curious on this. If anyone's thinking the market's going to fall, can you please share with me where the markets have fallen? Right? Wherever the market's fallen, tell me the suburbs, tell me a property that you're seeing that's like selling for less now by a considerable amount. It could have been overpriced to start off with. The market, so I'm seeing people come in and pile in the property, and prices rising, like an offer gets accepted, and then someone's coming in paying extra $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. And I'm talking like little properties that are like 200 grand, 150 grand, 300 grand. It is a hot market out there. It is a hot market, but it's going to be a hell of a lot hotter when more money gets printed. 100% correct about the war. It is a huge squeeze going on. Saudi Arabia is the only country that can make money out of $10 a barrel. Exactly. Interesting time. I feel like I'm in the inner sanctum of some of the finest minds of Facebook economics. Thank you, David. Humbled. What economic indicators would you consider red flags which might make you revise your current strategy? Keep up the great work. And B, Cameron, I'm not too sure what you mean by economic indicators. We're seeing, if they stop these stimulus packages, we're going to see the economy collapse. If we see them bring in more, we're going to see the market boom, right? This is unprecedented. We've printed nearly $500 billion, and that's without the home builder grant. $500 billion. It's probably the last time in the history of this country we did $500 billion worth of stimulus in 1 month. 1 month of stimulus. 1 month. $500 billion of stimulus. Right? That's got to go somewhere. That's got to find somewhere. And that's the biggest indicator. That was the final indicator. All the indicators. Wow, I've got some spam here. I don't want to click on the links. If people post links, just make sure that you don't go click on them in here. So it looks like you're going to win a free Ferrari or something here. Cameron, can you buy government bonds directly without using a broker? I do not know. You can use different type of software to be able to get there. Why would someone want to buy a government bond? They're negative bonds. Why would you? Your money is going to be hyperinflated before you get your capital back. Right? When in the history, this is the worst time ever. No financial advice, zero financial advice here, but the worst asset I would ever think. I'd rather get my money and fucking set it on fire and then piss on it and make a Facebook Live, because at least we could have a laugh and be like, I remember that time Birch burnt some cash, because it would be doing the same thing, but without, it would be a slow, a bit like watching your money go from playing Keno, right? At least if you win the pokies and you hit the buttons, your cash goes quicker and you have a bit of fun with the music. But if you're watching Keno and all the money goes, it's like going to drag out for hours, it's going to drag out for decades as you lose cash. Negative yielding bonds around the world, negative bonds, right? Why would you put your money away for 12 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 30 years negative bonds? So you put in 100 grand, you get back 90, but in the time inflation in the next 10 years has totally destroyed all capital that you had. It's the worst thing ever. And I'm definitely not ever thinking about investing in the bonds. I never would, especially government bonds. So no financial advice. It's just my view on why I won't do that. So, but if you do need help on strategy on that front, if anyone is thinking about investing and needs to speak to a financial advisor, I can help you on that front. Flick a message through to the team. Can be able to help you there. Aileen, I didn't pay $40 a square metre for your carpet. That must be New South Wales prices. I think you paid a bit more for that, or maybe a little bit less. We got a good deal though there. David, I can turn $50 a square metre in the middle of the Simpson into $300 a square metre in 6 months. Thanks, Nathan. When is a good time to lock in interest rates prior to negative interest rates? We've got to look at the interest rates, and I'll be covering a lot of this next week with Rose in the webinar, so make sure everyone joins up to the webinar and registers. It is capped at 500 people, and I know that for this webinar we're going to have more than 500 people in there, just due to the fact that it's an important part of building a property portfolio. When is a good time to lock in those interest rates? We've got to look at interest rates at the moment are cheaper to be fixed than they are for variable. What does that indicate? Why would the bank be giving away a cheap interest rate unless the rates are going to come down further? They've done all their forecasting and modelling and whatnot, so it's a very interesting viewpoint. It's how you view where those interest rates are going to go. So I haven't fixed any yet. I will be fixing them, but I'm expecting to fix them a lot lower. Rani, the government will not let the market fall. They're going to subsidise our holidays in Australia to spend money here. They're keeping printing money. They will just keep printing money, guys. Rani, that is true. The government won't do the printing. The central bank, the RBA, will do the printing, and they will just print more and more and more of this worthless currency. We're in a very good position here in Australia, guys. We can keep printing money for a long time, but it's just going to end up in inflation, and we're going to see the cost of goods go up. And the people that are going to be hurt the most here are the savers. They're the ones that are going to, I'm going to keep every cent, I'm going to hold on to it in cash in my account, and then next week they're going to be paying more. Everything's going up. Even cars, second-hand cars, right? Second-hand cars are going up. Like, depreciating assets are going up. That's how much inflation's around. Sam, Sydney CBD has a massive oversupply, 16%, good deals, but worth investing since it's nearly impossible to get a place rented. Also like Green Square. I'm sure there's some areas that are overpopulated, problems in those markets as far as getting tenancies and whatnot. That's why I think it's always important. A lot of people said to me over the course of the last decade, Nathan, those properties, there's nothing sexy, nothing flash with what you're doing. But most importantly, my reply is that they're very fundamental. Right? They may not be sexy, may not be flash. I want to make sure that when I'm buying assets, that they are recession-proof. I'm minimising the downside risk. Good upside for capital growth. Good upside for cash flow returns as well. So there's good opportunities out there. To the question about markets falling, from the people I have been talking to, they are not worried about now. They are more worried about the second wave hits, the longer lockdown that's in place. The market will suffer a huge loss then. There will be the straw that broke the camel's back. That is the main fear. Is it warranted or not? I don't know. The fear is real. Look, the market's not going to collapse due to the fact they're going to keep printing money, right? It might sound so simple. If the economy collapses so hard, it's going to be a very big mess. We work in a debt-based fiat Ponzi scheme. We need to keep printing more and more currency to get that liquidity floating around out there. They're going to do everything they can to stop this going into a deflationary period, which we have been in a deflationary period for the last 2 years. And now we're in the period of printing off all this currency, which is great. If we go into a second lockdown, it's just an opportunity. I put a post out the other day on Birch feed. I'm like, this is they haven't put enough stimulus out in the market. They're talking about this second wave so they can inject more liquidity into the markets. My mum calls me up. She watches a lot of news, and sometimes we fight. She goes, I don't know why you've got to be like this, Nathan. I don't know why you've got to be like so negative. I don't know what. And I'm like, Mum, you're talking to me about this stuff on TV that I'm like, you're being brainwashed. But she loves watching it, and she's old, like she's like nearly 80, and she watches TV a lot. Basically, she calls me and she's like, I've seen on the news they're gonna change this, they're gonna do this, and JobKeeper's gonna go. I'm like, they're never gonna stop JobKeeper. They can't, right? They've got to manipulate their stats to show that the unemployment is not so bad, right? If the unemployment rises, it's going to be a hell of a lot worse, right? So they're going to have to keep printing. It's called a universal basic income. It was trialled in many countries, in Sweden. In a lot of different countries, it's been universal basic incomes tried, and that is where we're at in 2020 is universal basic income. It's called JobKeeper or whatever. It's just basically socialism at its best. Heard of cases where people get stamp duty exemption in each state as a first home buyer. Heard it's not an Aussie-wide regulation, but not each state. So if you're a first home buyer, if you look here at Sydney, I think it's if you buy a property under $750,000 when you're a first home buyer, you don't pay stamp duty on it. You could potentially get the next wave of the 10,000 people, which get deposits paid for by the government. There is a lot of incentives out there for first home buyers. So if you are a first home buyer, reach out. There's lots of information to educate yourself on. A lot of stuff that is different than this, weird stuff that we look at here, just as, sort of first home, getting into the market, getting started. So we specialise probably 60-70% of the people that I help out build large property portfolios come to me as first-time buyers. So I do specialise in helping people sort of get started in investing. Cameron, great point about the government bonds. Thanks, Nathan. Keep up the good work here. Thanks, Cameron. Appreciate the feedback, and sorry to go on to a tangent about the bonds. They're the worst thing that I would ever touch personally, so no advice for anyone here though. How often do you factor in the possibility of being able to create a bedroom to a property, make it smaller and add a bedroom? Seems the best way to add equity and increase rents quickly and not much for a reno cost. I never actually think about adding extra bedrooms. I like acquiring assets. I like acquiring them below market value so I can move on. I can park it aside and move to the next one. I just want to buy an asset, go into the market, pick it up, throw it in the pot. Go out, buy an asset, throw it in the pot. Pick up an asset, add it in. If the market was to double tomorrow, would the market double? Would you want to, if the market, let's say the market doubled tomorrow, or if the market doubled in 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years, right? The question you need to ask yourself is, would you want to double 500 grand to $1 million, double $5 million to $10 million, double $10 million to $20 million? The ultimate answer is that you want to double the most amount of asset and see it go up in value. So for me, I just want to take wealth from this paradigm and take it into the future and see it grow up in value and assets appreciate and be able to expand that asset base. So yeah, with it, that is my views. Sam, saw you on 60 Minutes interview a few months back. Seen it on Groupon. You get a 30-minute helicopter ride for 3 people down in Sydney. Any plans to arrange a group of B.Invested helicopter tour? I'll bring the champagne bottle. I've never thought about that, actually. That'll be pretty fun. Yeah, I like helicopters. I'm scared of planes, but helicopters are pretty cool. Don't have the time, really, for going in helicopters, but if someone wants to organise a catch-up in a helicopter, as long as it's a safe one, I'll be all for it. So, yeah. Alex, nice to hear your thoughts tonight. I appreciate that. Thanks for tuning in. I'm just going to go and check out, see if there's any more questions over on this stream. Anyone got questions? Final thoughts? Final questions? Look, just want to once again reiterate. Obviously, no financial advice as always. If you would like to be a part of the webinar next week, make sure that you register. You can message team, email the office, whatever you do. Do not miss next week's webinar. It's going to be ultimately very, very important on structuring your finances in your portfolio. Just want to say thanks for everyone for tuning in and seeing more. I've got lots of questions coming in here. I'm going to answer the last 3 questions here. As I go. So, love your voice when you mentioned not to invest in mining towns or holiday houses or Airbnb, as now we can see plenty of houses empty from students not coming back here. And you said always invest in where you have family tenants, rent between 300 to 500. One of the best advices you've given. Cheers for that. Thanks, Randy. I appreciate the feedback on that. I invest in bread and butter residential property. Because there's always a market there for it. Sometimes I do venture out and go into weird stuff. I have been picking up some really smashed mining town stock of recently, just because I can see what's going to happen to the commodities market in the not too distant future, and some of these projects are starting up. I'm picking up properties for like 10,000, 20,000, 50,000. Just got one today where it was $60,000. So $60,000 for a 2-bedroom property. That 2-bedroom property was selling in the past. Comparable ones are selling for $300,000. Insane, right? You can't even build these things for that. So that's the only time when I'd go and venture into weird sort of stuff. But I appreciate the feedback, Rennie, and humbled to be of a support to you and to be able to give you that feedback and the insight. Chris, would you purchase anything in Melbourne at the moment or just overinflated? I wouldn't purchase in Melbourne. I'm not a fan of buying Melbourne. I think there's better value out there. I'm not saying that Melbourne's bad. I don't think it's overpriced. I just think that there's better value and better purchasing opportunities out there in other areas of Australia. But I'm very active all across Australia. I'm purchasing properties in every corner. So I just need to be clear on that. I don't talk about where I buy my properties out there, because I've got lots of fakers that try and steal my IP and try and think that there's some really cool investment gurus stealing my intellectual property. So, but I am buying every market, every corner of Australia. Alan Nathan, do you think the banks will be overvaluing property to entice people to reinvest or cover the losses from the mortgage holidays? I don't believe so. I think that it'll be bringing an extra level of risk to the bank and putting them into a very vulnerable position. But I do believe that they'll be readjusting their servicing. Obviously, some of that couldn't service at 5% interest rates beforehand. With the interest rates now at 2.5%, that means that there's a whole new world of investors out there, all property buyers that would be able to service and fund the market. That is where the boom is. Let me just be very clear on this last point, guys. The boom has been locked in, right? The boom is now people can buy properties with a 2.5% interest rate, right? They were paying 5% 2 years ago, 5% 2-3 years ago, 5% interest rates. Now it's 2.5%. The cost of ownership of property is halved, right? So if you're paying 50 grand a year interest on $1 million mortgage, right, that's now 25 grand a year. If the property went to $2 million at 2.5%, that is now 50 grand a year what you were paying before, right? So that is where a big chunk of the growth is being factored in. That's where we're going to see the market rise back up due to all these stimulus measures that are being taken to avoid a potential calamity. Also, I'm a pilot in Adelaide. We'll take you around any time. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate that. Daniel, your thoughts on super? About the same as mine. If I don't pay myself super, I won't have to worry about getting it out early or having trouble to accessing it whenever I get to get a better position. Look, everybody's position is different. I think it's important to get independent advice, whether we can help you out from accumulating the assets, structuring your assets. As I've pulled people into these videos beforehand, I've got a fantastic team of lawyers, accountants, financial planners, finance strategists. And as we've seen tonight, we've got, got a dozen staff on the Gold Coast. They're almost all tuned in, just tuned in and gave their thoughts. So if you guys own properties, we can manage them. If you want to help purchasing the properties, I can help you personally, myself, locate and negotiate and secure those properties for your portfolio. If you need help with financing your deals, make sure you reach out to my team. They're the best guys out there in the marketplace. I appreciate you guys all tuning in. As always, I will see you guys next Tuesday. Be safe and keep questioning everything out there in the market. So I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.